something's just landed on Keir Starmer's desk, and it's not a memo he'll forget. Overnight, a quiet by-election turned into a full-blown warning shot. The numbers don't lie, and what they reveal has left Labour HQ in panic mode. A seat once considered safe has flipped in the most unexpected way. And what's driving the change is something Starmer refuses to confront. Let's break it down, but first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Something extraordinary is happening in British politics, and it's left Sir Keir Starmer waking up to what could be the start of a full-blown political earthquake. The Labour leader, still reeling from a wave of council election losses, has now been handed a far more personal warning. His party's grip on its heartlands is slipping, fast, and the evidence couldn't be clearer. 3 brutally simple graphs released in the wake of the Runcorn and Helsby by-election tell the story. They show, in cold hard numbers, how Reform UK overturned a 13.2% Labour majority in just over 2 months, culminating in a shock victory by 6 votes. Let's walk through it. On March 10th, Labour was comfortably ahead, 42.7% to Reform's 29.4%. Starmer probably slept well that night, confident that the red wall was holding. But by May 15th, that advantage had not only evaporated, it had flipped. Reform candidate Sarah Potchin surged past Labour and took the seat, delivering another massive psychological blow to a party that had already watched 10 local councils fall into Reform's hands during the recent elections. This isn't just a one-off, it's a pattern, and it's accelerating. Reform now has 5 MPs in the House of Commons, and more importantly, they're making deep inroads into areas once considered untouchable Labour territory. The Runcorn result wasn't in the South or among swing voters. It happened in Labour's supposed stronghold. That's why Starmer should be panicking, because these numbers expose a fundamental weakness in Labour's coalition. So what's driving this shift? According to Sarah Potchin herself, the message from voters is loud and clear: immigration. Speaking to the media after her win, she didn't hold back. Immigration is massive here. Runcorn feels like a dumping ground for illegal immigrants. We've had the Derby Hotel. We've got houses in multiple occupancy. It's a big issue. Potchin went on to describe how people in parts of her constituency feel unsafe on the streets, a sentiment that's become all too common across the country. She made it clear that Reform's unapologetic stance on illegal immigration is resonating with voters who feel ignored, betrayed, and fed up. And the numbers back her up. A new YouGov poll shows that immigration has now overtaken the economy as the #1 concern for British voters. According to political analyst Matt Goodwin, 50% of voters now say immigration is a top issue for them. That's the highest level of public concern since Brexit. Let that sink in. Immigration is polling higher than inflation, tax, housing, and public services. And yet, what are Labour and the Tories offering? More platitudes, more managed decline, and more of the same. That vacuum is exactly where Nigel Farage thrives. Fresh off the Runcorn victory, Farage declared, "We are now the opposition to the Labour Party." And frankly, it's hard to argue with him. Reform is beginning to position itself not just as a protest vote, but as the main alternative to the status quo. As Farage bluntly put it, in most parts of the country now, if you vote Conservative, you get Labour. It's that message, straightforward, unfiltered, and rooted in people's real concerns, that's proving effective. Voters feel ignored by Labour, disgusted with the Tories, and they're turning to the only party willing to say what everyone else won't. Research from Electoral Calculus suggests that if Runcorn's 17% swing were repeated nationally, Reform could capture up to 427 seats in a general election. Now, that's a theoretical maximum, but it reflects the growing scale of public disillusionment. And how is Labour responding? With arrogance. After the by-election loss, a Labour spokesman tried to brush off the defeat by pointing to the collapse of the Conservative vote, completely ignoring the real headline: Labour lost to Reform, not by a landslide. But in politics, momentum matters more than margin. And right now, Reform has it. To put it simply, Starmer's morning panic is justified. He's watching the walls crumble around him, not because of conservative strength, but because reform is rewriting the rules. The Labour leader can no longer rely on tribal loyalty or historical dominance. He's now facing an insurgent movement that's breaking through the barriers faster than anyone expected. And if Labour doesn't wake up soon, Runcorn won't be the exception. It'll be the beginning of the end. In other news, the European Union has ambushed Sir Keir Starmer's Brexit reset talks with a last-gasp demand for the UK to sacrifice its fishing waters. Brussels bureaucrats, led by France, had called for a rollover of the current 5-year deal to ensure European trawlermen maintained access to Britain's coastal waters. However, in a last-ditch attempt to expand its catch, the EU is reportedly demanding its accord lasts up to a decade. In return, Brussels has suggested it will list its existing post-Brexit checks on lorry loads of food and animal products being exported from Britain to the continent. An insider said Brussels had opened the door to scrapping lorry checks if the UK agrees to an offer of a decade of fish. Top Tories have made fishing rights a red line for any UK-EU negotiations. Former Brexit negotiator Lord Frost told the Daily Mail, "Conceding permanent EU access to our fishing grounds would be a disastrous sign of weakness. It would essentially take us back to membership of the much-hated Common Fisheries Policy. The government should hang tough in the interests of British fishermen, though I have little expectation that they will." Shadow Environment Secretary Victoria Atkins added, "Labour must not sacrifice our coastal communities in their closing down sale of British Brexit freedoms with the EU. We will not accept any deal that throws our fishing industries overboard with cut quotas or selling off permanent rights to the EU. The government should be going into these negotiations proud of our country, its history, and its future. Instead, they seem set on apologising, grovelling, and selling off the UK's fishing treasures." Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has separately vowed to tear up Starmer's EU treaty if he becomes Prime Minister in 2029. The Prime Minister thinks he'll get away with it, but he perhaps underestimates how strong Brexit feeling still is in the Red Wall, Farage told The Telegraph. "The whole thing is an abject surrender from Starmer, and politically, something he will come to regret." He added, "We tell the EU that any agreements are no longer legally binding on the UK, because a general election has said so. That's what Brexit was all about. It was about us governing ourselves, well or badly." In conclusion, the EU's 11th hour demand for extended fishing rights has thrown a fresh spanner into Sir Keir Starmer's hopes of resetting Brexit relations. With Brussels tying key trade concessions to a decade-long access to British waters, the political backlash at home has been swift and fierce. From Tory veterans to Reform UK's Nigel Farage, there is unified resistance to any deal perceived as undermining the sovereignty hard won by Brexit. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.